Welcome back, America. It's an all-new jam-packed season full of more speed and more badass builds. Man, I love the smell of diesel on Mondays.
You can smell me from there, Hot Rod?
No, wrong diesel, but yes, I can smell you.
Diesel Brothers, the new season moves to 9, Monday, September 4th on Discovery. And watch all past seasons on the Discovery Go app.
Okay, back to work.
Guys, one more time. Heavy D and Diesel Dave, please.
What's up, everybody?
Guys, welcome. Congratulations on the book, the new series, the whole nine, everything. Before we get into any of that, just how are you guys doing? How you hanging? Everything going
fantastic.
well? Yeah,
Enjoying the New York weather.
I was
It's
gonna say, how
cool
New York
here.
treating you, right?
Listen, like, we sweat so badly, like, more than other human beings. We, like,
not
for
a
some
problem.
reason, like, you get a little breeze that comes through and we're sweating. Like, doesn't matter. So this is great because it's raining and everybody looks like they're sweating,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
But really, it's just
Instant
us still.
Universal sweat. But
everybody else is just wet from the rain. We're wet from sweat. So you should see around the shop, man. It is just, it is hot in Utah right now. It's been a very hot summer, and
degrees plus right now, so-
and it has been warm. So this is actually
How
a
many
welcome change.
We're 100 degrees plus. though, I
100
think.
degrees plus.
And it's dry heat. You got to realize the humidity there's like 20%. So it's just like a constant sunburn.
With all the trucks and things, you can't just make a massive AC unit for.
We got a couple of them, but we always leave the doors open, so
Fair enough.
it's not efficient.
No, not at all. Not very. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everybody looks like they're sweating. Congratulations on the book, man. As we talked backstage, I got a chance to read through it, and I do want to talk a little bit about it because I think one of the great things that made this book so enjoyable is it's kind of two books in one. There's a lot of great stories, like how you guys met each other, how you met your wives, all the pranks you pulled. But then there's legitimately, like, really good tips that are folded throughout. Talk about the idea to make this book, where that came from, and sort of what that process looked like. The very beginning, when you guys are like, oh, we got to write a book.
You got the very beginning, or
The
what?
very beginning.
Be careful.
Dave,
if you're
no,
asking.
let's
The
go.
year
I'm gonna-
was 1984.
There we are.
Oh, geez.
Very beginning.
No, I think the whole reason we wrote a book stems from our social media. We had lots of our fans writing in and asking us questions about our builds, what they could do to build trucks like the ones we were building,
Yeah.
and also just tips in life in general. And you're getting 500 to 1,000 questions every single day. You don't have time to respond to all of them, and I think that's where the book idea stemmed from, because then we're able to respond to all their questions in book form.
Yeah, it gets really frustrating for us because we want to connect with people. We want to talk with all these people that have these questions. I mean, it's usually young kids. I'm talking like 18 to 25-year-old kids who are asking questions that you're like, that's a big load. You know what I mean? You're asking me what to do with your life. And surprisingly, it would shock you how many of those people come to us on a daily basis. And so like Dave said, this gave us an opportunity to share as much as we could without ignoring all those questions. And so we took the majority of the questions that we get, try to condense them, and throw them into the book. I'm sure there'll be a follow-up and more because we're constantly getting new people looking at what we're doing. Because, like you said, the book is kind of 2 for 1. It's not just about trucks. I mean, whether you guys like trucks or not, it's about life. And it's about how we grew our business and how we got to the point where we feel like we are living the American dream.
Yeah, was that something you guys found as the social media presence kind of grew and as that following grew, that frustration of like there's all these great fans, but how do we maintain a personal relationship? Because that's what it's all about. It's about feeling close to these people that you admire. It's about feeling like you're more than a fan. You're a friend of these guys. And so you're going through all these different questions, fielding all these things. How do you start whittling down what should be in the book, what's going to be in the next book? What's something that maybe we should just reach out to this person? Like, how do you make that decision? How much time does that take?
You know, first thing for us is we've never really considered people to be our fans. We've just, like you said, considered them to be friends. They're people that share the common interest with us, which is trucks and, the stuff that we do. We do some crazy stuff and we do some normal stuff. But across the board, we have a lot of people who share the common interest. And so to answer your question, we basically take a look at the most commonly asked questions because they're typically a lot of questions that get asked at the same time over and over and over. And so we'll obviously tackle those ones the best we can. I mean, the book is relatively short, not short, 100 pages, 100 and something.
It's a quick read, but it's good.
It's a quick read, but
There's a lot in there.
You can't throw in everything, right? One thing to keep in mind is neither Dave or I have any sort of formal education as far as like, I think I have half a semester at college. I tell the story all the time. College, I encourage everybody to go, get as much education as they can, but it just wasn't working for me. One day I was sitting in, what was the class? Environmental appreciation was the name of the class. And I was
That's why
writing...
you keep the windows open while you run the air conditioner, for the record.
Exactly. I was writing a report on Easter Island, and I got halfway through the report. Yeah, and I sat, and I remember dropping my pencil, and I was like, what am I going to do with this information? I'm never going to use this information. So I need to do something that I'm going to be able to actually use, because I only got so much space in this brain of mine and only so much attention span to be able to focus on learning something. So I literally dropped out that day and just said, I'm going to go figure out what I want to do, and I'm going to go get my own training, and I'm just going to get hands-on. So it worked for me.
Did you have a similar experience with higher education in that way?
Yeah, I did. I went to a couple semesters of college, and I did the general courses, and I felt the same way. Felt like I was going right back to high school, and I could do more by getting some real-life experiences.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun similarities you find in your guys' story, even before you guys end up meeting. Was it also the Easter Island class that did you in? Were you?
Yeah, well, I don't remember which class it was, but it was the same idea that my head's only got so much room. I know it looks big, and I can fit a lot of stuff in there, but it's just a show.
Talking about all those different stories, and I don't want to give away anything that's in the book, but there is one that I do feel is worth sharing, and I wanted to hear you guys tell. Because I assume some stuff, and maybe I'm wrong, but when it comes to entertainment, maybe sometimes you embellish a detail or something like that. But the story in which, the circumstances of how you guys met and what you ended up doing, you can't make that up. That sounds like probably a pretty awesome story. I was wondering if you could share just the night you guys met. And
You want to tell it, or you want me to?
Are you?
I'm using my radio
Depends on
voice.
which one. Are we talking about the real, like the what the
Give
does
them
the
the
book
real.
talk about at church, or talk about with the diesel truck?
a little bit of both.
Okay,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah,
hose
go.
involved. There's
Yeah, so I'll start.
You pick which part
the
you want to
internet.
tell.
You could say it's the Wild West
So-
out here. You can tell any version of the
Yeah.
story you
Okay.
want.
Perfect. Turn on your NSFW filter. No, we went to church in Utah. Obviously, a lot of people are LDS, aka Mormons. No horns, as you guys can see. Like
No tails.
We're relatively normal.
One wife.
One wife, yeah. So in Utah, they have these groups where the churches go to meet, and they have they're called wards that are designated for young single adults. So basically, the young single people can go there and meet other people. It's no different than a standard mixer somewhere. And so that's where we were going to church and looking for girls, and we ended up meeting each other. And
Not weird.
and not what we were looking for, but.
Wasn't there like an unspoken, non-existent rivalry because you were both named Dave?
It was, actually.
And the thing is, we were friends with the same group of people, but we hadn't met each other yet.
Got it.
And so
he was replacement.
new Dave, which was me, that showed up because I was looking for new chicks in this area. All right, so I was going to that ward.
I'm gonna steal my chicks.
I'm coming in and I'm checking out the chicks that are supposedly his region.
Yeah.
He's like the alpha male of that area. So. I got in with his friends, and he heard about this new Dave, and this new Dave had a big truck and all this stuff. And so when we met, we were supposed to be like, what's up, dude? Like, I don't like you. But we just liked each other. We're like, you're funny, and we should be friends. And so we became friends really quick. And so that leads us to our next, outing together, which was
outing.
we were able to get some chicks, right, some girls from the church, and we took them up boating. And we loaded them all up, and we went to the lake and had a great time, and got along really well. And as we were coming home, I was driving a big diesel truck, pulling the boat, and I was very distracted by the pretty young ladies in the truck. And in Utah, they identify the fuel handles. The black one is regular gas for your car. Green is the handle for diesel fuel. And in some states it's different. Some states it's yellow, and some states it's reversed. So it should be universal, but I don't know why it's not.
Yeah.
So I grabbed the old black handle, not paying attention, threw it in the truck and filled up the tank. And I filled it like, that truck must have had the biggest tank of any truck in the world. Like, I swear it took 90 gallons of gas.
Now, for those that don't know, what happens if you put gas into a diesel truck?
It will explode.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll literally explode. So we were in a bad situation in the middle of nowhere at night. So I shut the truck off, pulled the pump out, and I'm like, oh, what do we do? And then comes my knight in shining armor.
Here I am. The knight in shining armor, armed with a garden hose.
Yeah.
And I just barely met this guy, so I figured it was make or break time to seal the deal for our relationship that we'd already started at church.
Yeah.
And we proceeded to siphon the gasoline.
No, not we, you.
Me. I
So you got to realize this is probably realistically 40 gallons of gasoline, 5 gallons of diesel, and then whatever else was in the bottom of my fuel tank. And he
Let's just say my breath has never been the
He just went
same.
ham on that hose. And it wasn't working like a regular siphon. Like normally on a siphon you can suck it, and then put it down, and then gravity will feed it.
Exactly. We'll take care of the rest.
It wasn't working for some reason, so he was just big huff after huff after huff, and we have a picture somewhere floating around of him trying to make himself puke after this all happened because he was trying to get all the fuel out of his belly.
Yeah, we'd
and
swallow
so
a little bit.
that was probably an hour and a half worth of just like, guys, that's nasty. Like diesel fuel, gasoline, all that stuff's nasty.
Yeah.
And he did it, and he like didn't even question it. That like he just. There wasn't even like any volunteers. He was just like,
Yeah, I'm the guy.
he was the man for the job. So
He was my damsel in distress. That's what heavy D stands for, heavy damsel.
yeah, heavy damsel in distress. Yeah.
So I guess the follow-up question is, did you even try to talk to the girls after all this transpired?
Not me, because my breath
meanwhile-
was terrible.
Yeah, nobody wanted to talk to him after old stinky breath.
That's
Yeah, you know, it actually ended up working out because later on, I met my wife at the same church group. After I'd already met my bro for life, I met my lady for life, and we obviously are now married with 3 beautiful kids.
Gotcha.
And I lived in his basement for 5 years.
No, hold on. There's roommates, and then there's this guy because when my wife and I first got married, I mean, anybody here married? You guys know how it is. When you're married and you're newly married,
2 of us, by the way.
it's
two of us are
two.
married.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
okay. All right.
But we're very happy about it.
I mean,
Incidentally,
everybody here has been in a relationship. You know how it is, especially when it's new, right? Like being newlywed or newly together. There's a lot of like adjusting and like that's mine, that's yours.
Yeah.
Well, there was 3 of us: me, my wife, and and our roommate. Because right after I got married, he disappeared for a while. He went and ran like a marathon on the Great Wall of China, and
I used to be
Casually
in
throw that into
shape.
the book, by the way.
Yeah,
Like of
yeah.
all the stories in there, that's kind of like a throwaway. At one point, I was like, wait, I want more. I want the entire story.
and it makes sense because he looks like a marathon runner.
Yeah, I just built like a marathon runner.
Built like a bowling ball.
Just tuck and go.
So, I mean, ultimately, he was gone for about a year or so. We were still buddies, still staying
It took a
in touch.
long time to run.
And I saw that he was just literally like, if somebody didn't reach out to him, he was just going to roam the world. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I knew that he needed to kind of earn some money to go back on his next trip. So I called him and said, hey, man, come work with me. I'm doing this truck thing, and we're buying and selling cars and trucks and stuff. So he ended up coming out to work for me, and he was sleeping in the shop in a hammock. I don't know if any of you ever slept in a hammock, but it's
fantastic.
terrible. It is. There's like sleeping in a hammock is not comfortable. He's probably spent more time sleeping in a hammock in his life than in a regular bed, and that's not an exaggeration. And so he was sleeping in a hammock, and one day I think either myself or my wife, remember we're like maybe 6 months to a year married at this point. We're like, do you want to come crash at our place? Like, you don't got to sleep in the shop every night.
He's like, can I bring my hammock?
Yeah, and next thing you know, there's our roommate. And it wasn't like a downstairs roommate. It was like
Across the hall.
It was like in Utah, you can get a decent size house for not too much money. So it was a Rambler. No, it was a 2-story actually. Our bedroom was upstairs, and you would think, let's put crazy Uncle Dave in the basement or something like that. No, he was in the room right across the hall from ours, upstairs, and so.
Well, it was kitty corner because right across the hall was Charlie's, your newborn baby.
Yeah, my newborn
and we would
baby
take
would
turns
run-
getting up with the baby at night.
And
Earn your keep, man.
and he was like 10 or 15 feet away from our bedroom, and that was just the way it was. And so my daughter, Charlie, as my first kid, she ended up growing up thinking that this is just dad number 2, and that's who
people
he
have two
is
dads.
now.
Really sweet,
And now I don't want to say luckily, but Dave kind of grew up over the last couple of years and met a girl and convinced her into marrying him and had a kid and got his own place. It's just, I feel like a proud father, but he's like, but he's older than me by like 6 months, and I'm sitting there watching him, and I'm like, why do I feel this way? But it's like I watched him grow up in front of me. It was really weird.
When he got hitched and got his place and all that stuff, did you show up the next day with your hammock?
No, we
Time to
actually
pay back, buddy.
we talked about that because we were actually, my wife and I were selling one house and getting ready to move into another one, and we had a transition period where we had to move to like a condo or something, and so we joked about moving in and just starting the party up all over again, but we ended up not doing that for the sanity of our wives.
Something that we kind of glossed over that I want to get touch on, though. I'm not going to let this go. As big as you guys are into diesel, it's literally a way of life. You say that in the book. It's a culture. How long ago did you put the wrong fuel into the truck? How long?
Close to a decade, probably.
this
Okay,
had to
and
be
when did you
2008.
stop giving him shit for it? When did you?
Still going.
Still going. Okay,
Yet
cool.
to
Yeah.
happen.
As soon as my breath clears up, I'll stop.
Very
That's a rookie move. Just like that's like a total rookie move for a guy that considers himself a truck guy. So
well, that's the thing that I was like, I felt so not unbelievable. That's not the word at all, but it was just like the crazy part of that story. It's like, no way, you put the wrong fuel in the deep.
Yeah, well, I've got some follow-up stories of what.
No, you don't want to. You can check it on
the
volume
man
2.
has put the wrong fluid,
don't spoil it now.
truck fluid in the wrong area multiple times, and I'm talking.
That's how you learn, isn't it?
That is,
Yeah.
but you think like
learned the
after
hard
once,
way.
you're like, okay, I learned my lesson. He's like, nah, I'm gonna do it again.
Maybe
See if it
Because
works
this is
this
a real pain in the ass. I'm gonna see how bad it is this time. So, just hey, that's comes with the job.
We got a couple of things that we're going to talk about before we get to audience Q&A. One thing I want to touch on real quick is pranks, which are a big part of this book. You guys talk a lot about pranks. In fact, there's 2 sections. There's stories of pranks that have happened, and then there's tips about great pranks that you too can execute. And I was wondering, from the beginning, was there like, well, whatever goes in this book, we obviously got to talk about pranking each other. Like, was that like from day one you knew that was part of the book, or was it something that just kind of found its way in over time?
So pranks aren't something that we consciously really think about. It's just who we are. We just naturally, if we find an opportunity to punk our buddy, we're going to do it. Yeah. And so we actually didn't originally include it in the book because it wasn't something that we even thought was unique to us. All friends have this. It wasn't until the author started, not the author, the guy that helped us, put the whole book together. He started asking questions like, well, what about the pranks? And we're like, well, what about them? He's like, well, they're insane. And we're like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you hung your buddy's car upside down in the shop, and you did this and you did that. And we're like, oh, I guess those are kind of funny. And so he kind of helped us remember some of the pranks that we'd done and kind of narrate how to execute a good prank. I mean, it is a big part of what we do, but like I said, it's such a part of what we do that sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it.
Yeah. Well, there's we were talking about this backstage. There's one in particular that I think is really funny and really simple, and it's called noisy brakes. And it's where you crosswire your buddy's brakes with their car horn. Yeah. So every time they were to step on the brakes, they would actually. And this is something you guys said they used to do to each other back in the day, but it was even simpler. You would just put a. Well, how'd you describe it?
You just take off the cover and put a coin in so that your contact points hit each other when you push the horn down, and it stays connected and sounds.
Yeah, there's a couple
like
of different
alarm.
ways to do it, but I don't know. I don't know if you've ever had a rogue horn.
Yeah.
But until you've experienced a
Terrifying.
rogue car horn, you don't know panic. Because it's like, it's not enough to obviously be like, I'm not going to get like in trouble with the police, but everybody looks at you like you are the biggest prick in the world. It's like, it's just doing it. I don't know how to stop it. So I've literally had panic moments where I rip a steering wheel cover off, or I'll pop the hood open and rip the horn out of the hood. It's the worst.
Yeah, it happened to me. We were telling you back there. It happened once. My grandparents' old 1988 Cadillac DeVille, and for whatever reason, the horn, we pressed it, and it just. My biggest fear was, dear God, do not let us pass like a funeral procession or something, because we were just driving for like 10 blocks, and she was like, "What's?" Oh, it was a big mess. Anyway. We're just about to turn to audience Q&A. There is one last thing I do want to talk to you guys about, which I've been following you on social media. And kudos and thank you for all your hard work. You guys are busting ass to get down to Texas and do whatever you can and pitch in, asking for different various items and things from your fans and all that stuff. And I want to, 1, thank you for that. And 2, ask you a little bit about what's the plan? What are you guys, where are you heading off to? How's it going to work? What's coming up with that?
The beautiful part about what we do for work is we get to buy and sell vehicles that we really like. And for me, that's a big deal because I'm a connoisseur of all types of different vehicles, Army vehicles, and I'm talking everything from heavy equipment to Ferraris. I love it all. And so over the years, I've just been buying random vehicles. I got a deal with the Finnish military, and I imported a couple of their big troop transporter tanks. They're amphibious, they swim, they go through snow, and coolest vehicle in the world. It's called a Sisu Nasu. And so I've been slowly gathering this arsenal that I didn't even realize that I was gathering until this call came in. Well, not necessarily a call, but we saw that there was a need in Texas, and I started thinking about, like, man, what can we do to get down there and help? Yeah. And I called my guy, my shop manager, and said, hey, get this vehicle ready. Hung up, call him back. Hey, also get this vehicle ready. And next thing you know, we have, 2 tanks, a couple of big Army transport trucks, a truck that we call the Brodozer, which is this guy right here. He's yellow. Tires are like 60 inches tall. He looks like Bigfoot the monster truck, basically. And so all these vehicles that we built are now heading down to Texas on a convoy, and we're going to stage in North Houston. And from there, we're going to unload and basically head straight into the flood zone and do what we can to recover, because there is It's crazy, man. Social media is the weirdest thing in the world. It's the craziest tool. I'm getting messages every 5 minutes from people that are in the affected area saying, I've tried calling 911. I've tried calling this. I've tried calling that. I can't get a hold of anybody. Are you coming down and can you bring me baby formula? My baby hasn't had food since yesterday. I'm like, holy shit, this is the craziest thing in the world. So I'm also a helicopter pilot, so I'm taking my helicopter down, and we're going to basically throw everything we can at it and do what we can to help.
Well, I caught wind of it last night, and we here at the show, we were really inspired by it. And I know there was a 9 a.m. deadline, but this morning we went out. Guys, can we bring this over? I got Luke and so bring this out here.
Thank you very much.
I saw what you guys needed. We brought you a
rad.
ton of hand sanitizer,
awesome.
socks.
Cool.
There's
Thank
some
you.
dog blankets in there, a bunch of towels,
Thank you.
couple hundred diapers. And Luke's part of it. He's going to push this wherever you need it to go, right,
Thank
Luke? You agree to that?
I mean,
contractually?
here's the thing that you don't think about in times of need like that, emergency situations. You don't realize like a phone charger could be worth gold. You don't realize that baby wipes, the stuff that you just don't even really think about. And so that's one thing in Utah. Since an early age, we've been taught to be prepared for any sort of natural disaster. That's actually a big part of the Mormon culture is be prepared. Food storage, water storage, emergency supplies. And so our whole life we've been just gathering supplies, and I have a couple of years worth of food storage. And so this is the stuff that we were taught to gather, but you don't realize you need it until you need it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, every little bit counts, and you guys are bringing millions of little bits together into one massive bit. Thank you for all that. And people can follow on your social media to watch.
Yeah, follow our Instagram.
Follow along.
That's where we're kind of doing most of our announcements and stuff from.
And wherever this has got to go. Well, Luke, we'll ship this wherever it needs to be. You don't have to walk out with this, but we wanted you guys to
We'll carry it
have some
on.
stuff and bring it down with you and help any way we could. We're going to turn it over to audience Q&A. We got a couple of mics out there. I think the first one's right here in the front. Go right ahead.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. It's obvious that you guys have a very strong bromance. Do your wives get jealous of your bromance?
That was yes. I think everybody, when we both finally got married, we both realized like, oh, wait a minute. We have somebody else to answer to, and somebody else that we have to like spend time with more than each other and our bros. And so it was a weird adjustment for a while.
And then once you guys got a hold of it with us three, then all of a sudden I went to an Alan Jackson concert and found my wife, and your wife had to go through losing her husband number 2.
She lost husband number 2. She lost dad number 2. She lost a roommate. She lost the guy that mows the lawn. I mean, she lost a lot more than that. So, it's. I'm telling you, we're not blood brothers, but we're probably closer than brothers because just the time that we spend together is a lot, and we're still best buddies too. That's a lot of people say. Has it changed? Has being on TV and all that kind of stuff changed your relationship or friendship? It's only made it stronger. Yeah. And the day that it even starts to affect it, I'll throw the TV away and keep my buddy. It's not worth it,
Very cool. I think we have, you're saying 2 more? Yes, our next one's going to come from right here.
Hi. So I was wondering, with your TV show and the book coming out, how do you manage your private lives and your public persona?
We've had to kind of just embrace it all as one. I mean, the cameras follow us everywhere we go, so they're going to have to come and check out my family life at the same time. My wife's accepted it. So really, family's first. And you won't have a show if I don't get to hang out with my family, so they're going to have to put both together.
Yeah, the unique thing about us is the show, we're very fortunate that it was successful. And with success comes the ability to kind of write your own rules. And so we have broken a lot of Discovery's rules, and they've had to take out insurance policies that I don't think people even knew existed. But ultimately, it's because we told them that the show can't dictate who we are. The show has to follow who we are, and it'll make a much better show. And that's why I think the show's been successful, and why they continue to order more and more episodes. So.
And in the end, I think they'd rather see real people and real families versus just a show about trucks and builds. They like to see us with everything that we do.
It's the authenticity that makes it fun to watch and makes it that much better, so for sure. And then we have last question is going to be right here in the front row.
Hello, thank you for being here. So what have you learned from yourselves? What have y'all learned from one another during your careers when y'all first met?
So what have you taught each other? What have you learned from each other?
I learned just how creative and artistic this guy is. I mean, when we first met, we were working together doing hard work, doing rock walls, landscaping, and that. And once he got into vehicles, you could really see his mind start working and building something that is just amazing and very, very useful. And then at the same time, he's created all these connections where we can use this platform to go help Houston, for example, and do some good in the world. He's a very, very talented guy, and I think I've learned most of my skills from him.
Yeah.
He's like my dad.
I've no joke learned from this guy how to care about other people. I'm telling you right now, it's the weirdest thing in the world, and it's almost to a fault sometimes where he will commit to a complete stranger to be at their wedding, even if he's got to miss his own baby's birth. Like he is loyal to a fault sometimes, and. This is not a joke. Well, it is kind of funny, but there's been multiple times. It's actually almost every time we get on a plane. He'll get sat next to a woman, typically a middle-aged. I don't know how old they are, but within 15, 20 minutes of the flight, she'll be head on his shoulder, crying, telling him everything. And there was a flight one day that was 35 minutes, and I'm like, no way is it gonna happen, no way. I look back and this lady's crying, talking about her divorce, and I'm like, we're 10 minutes into the flight, and we're landing in 10 minutes. I mean, he has an uncanny ability to care about people, which has taught me, like, I should take some of my time and care about people as well. So definitely somebody to look up to that way.
Very cool. Do you guys ever trade beard tips? These things are impressive. I have to commend you. I don't know if there's a conditioning process or if it's just natural, but they are awesome.
I got to be honest. I spent, so when we first started working together back when I hired him on 2011, 2012, I was very concerned about him not being able to find a wife.
Or function in
society. Because let's back it up a little bit. He had just got home from
running pretty rough.
He looked rough, right? This is good. This is good. I mean, when he had this wild beard and it was dyed like Macho Man Randy Savage, and I was just like, man, this guy is one of my best friends, and he just looks rough. So I, for a year, cut it, man, cut it, just cut it. And then he wouldn't cut it, and so I was just like, you know what? All right, I'll join the club. And so I just let it go, and that was in 2013. So his beard is like, I mean, come on, it's epic. My beard is, it is what it is, and
it looks good, man. It looks good.
It looks good.
That's like a Poseidon-like beard, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it is.
It is. Definitely, man. Kudos on the Poseidon.
Just because there's sea life in it.
I'm getting this thing. I got to wrap it up. I can hang out and talk to you guys all day. The book is out now, guys, and I'm telling you, whether you're into trucks or not, this thing is just a ton of fun. A lot of great stories, and it'll make you love trucks. Honestly, now I'm into getting myself a diesel. You got me convinced. I got to figure it out.
Then it works.
The show comes back on the 4th, 9 p.m., I believe, on Discovery. One more time, Diesel Day and Heavy D right here.